Happy Sunday. Hope you are having a beautiful week. Thank you for joining me for this Sunday Mindset Live. I'm excited to talk about today's topic, mostly because hopefully it'll answer some questions that I get very often from people who are trying to manifest their best life. Um, yes, happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful, incredible, wonderful mothers out there, and those fathers who also take the role of mother, and to everyone who may be missing their mom today because they're no longer physically here with you. I just want to share my deepest gratitude and love for the role that moms play in our lives and how none of us would be here. I mean, physically, but also emotionally and spiritually without them. So thanks, Mom. You are the best. Okay, so I'm going to pose this question to those of you who have tuned in, and I want you to be as open as possible and give me some of your thoughts on what the answer of this might be. But if you have in the past worked on a manifestation process, right? So specific activities, thought processes, practices that help you to manifest something in your life. If you've ever done that before, I want you to type me in the chat. Me. Type me if you've ever tried to manifest something in your life. Tried, consciously tried. I would say that every one of us are constantly manifesting, either consciously or unconsciously. But if you've ever consciously tried to manifest something in your life, write me. Cool. All right, I'm with my people. So most of you have tried to manifest something, and it's an interesting process. One of the first questions that somebody will ask me if we're talking about this, and of course, in my life, I have been working in this process of manifestation for decades, and I've been successful. I've been unsuccessful, or so I thought. And the number one question, what do you think the number one question is that people ask either themselves or others when they are working towards manifesting something? What do you think the number one question is? Write that in the chat. The number one question people have when trying to manifest something. All right. How? Are you seeing a lot of hows? Okay. What else? When? That's it. When? When does it happen? When will it all happen? And it's an incredible realization to understand how deep that question is. When? Because on the surface, it is, I think, the biggest struggle that we have, right? The thing that either will bump us off of our process, will diminish our belief, will strengthen our belief. It could be in either direction. But yeah, when will it happen? How long is this going to take? And I want to share with you guys a realization that I've made or that I've come to, and how I came to this realization that helped me really answer the question of when. All right. And I want to look at time as a construct and propose some ideas about time that you don't have to agree with, but hopefully, once you listen to the reasoning that I have from my experience, it may bend your concept of it or potentially set you on a path of seeking greater understanding. So, that in itself is a blessing. When? Now, if we think about time, it's in our three-dimensional life, a linear construct, right? We've got past, we have present, and we have future. And it seems as though they have no, well, I mean, it seems that they're distinct and separate things, right? I can't figure out how to go back and change something in the past. I am in the present right now, and my future is yet to transpire. And so that gives us this concept of freedom. It gives us a concept of free will, that we have this capacity to choose, that we have a ability to do something in the present to affect what's going to take place in the future. And that is how time works in Einstein's model of relativity, right? And so we can have this idea that time is linear, that only now is real. What's happened in the past is the past. What's going to happen in the future is the future, and what we have to work on is real and now. And what I've really come to understand and realize is that I don't necessarily think that that's all it, and that that is fundamentally true. And I'm going to share a couple of stories that will highlight why I've come to this conclusion, and then the tremendous amount of power that you can extract or gain from the conclusion that I've come to about time. So, a couple of weeks ago, I shared a story of Rahima and I in Oregon having purchased a mocha and a donut for an unsheltered person, and something that happened along the evening that had relation to it. I'm just going to quickly reshare that story so that for those of you who were not here with me, you'll still be able to follow along. And how it went was Rahima and I had decided that we wanted to get some famous Oregonian coffee and a really cool donut. And so we go into downtown Portland and we stand in line for this really cool voodoo donut, right? A delicious, like specialty donuts, 1,000 calories a pop, all this stuff, right? And on our way there, Rahima had seen this gentleman sitting on the sidewalk who was obviously hungry and homeless, and had asked him if he would be interested in a donut. And he, of course, was. He told us, make sure you get me one of them chocolate dip donuts. He wanted the glazed donut that had been dipped in chocolate on the top. One of my favorites. I think that was a great selection on his part. And so we grab that donut. But as we're walking, he says, oh, and can you grab me a mocha as well? And so, of course, my sister and I obliged. And once we picked up the donuts, we then went to a coffee shop that was close by and bought a mocha and had this gentleman's donut with us as well. We walk over to him, we deliver him his prize, and away we go. He's super happy. He feels and looks satiated because he's got a delicious donut and a mocha to sip on, for the rest of the morning. Rahima and I then go off and climb some waterfalls and have a beautiful day. And later on in the evening, went out for dinner. And we had traveled to the other end of the city for this specific Indian restaurant that had really good reviews, because we were, wanting to eat some of our own cultural dish in Portland. So we order a lot of food, and end up ordering too much food. And so we decide we're going to pack stuff and take it home with us. Now, the night prior, we had some leftover dinner as well, and we had been driving around in the area that we were eating in, and we couldn't find anybody to give the leftover food to. And so, as we are packing up this Indian dish, I had said to my sister, "Hey, you should like pack this stuff up into separate containers because it's not going to make sense to somebody how to eat this unless you're Indian. Like you're not going to know that you got to eat the sauce with the bread because you kind of dip it together. Us Indian people, we eat with our hands, and so there's like a whole thing to it, right? You don't just somebody just hands you an Indian dish and it's just this sauce and meat. You're not going to know what to do. You kind of have had to have eaten Indian before to understand the way it works. And so I was asking her to pack the thing up in a specific way, and she said, "Jamil, don't worry about it. I'm gonna actually get out and explain to the person how to eat it." And I'm like, "Rahima, you're crazy. Like, just all right, fine." Okay, so as we walk out, we've got this leftover Indian food, and it dawns on me as we're driving around and can't again find anybody to give the food to in this specific area that we should drive across town back to the person that she had made friends with in the morning and deliver the food to them. And she thinks it's a great idea, and so we head over there. As we get to that area, my sister exits the car. She goes and walks over, and she's gone for like a few minutes. And I'm starting to get worried because, it's longer than I had expected her to take. And so, like, I'm kind of looking. And as she's walking by, I can see walking back, I can see she's like got this shocked look on her face. She looks as though she's gotten emotional, like she's, almost in tears. And like she comes in and sits down in the car, and she says, "I can't believe what just happened." And I'm like, was he there? And she said, "No, he wasn't there." I'm like, "Well, what was it? What happened?" She said, "Well, what was there, as I was walking up, I could hear this person in the same spot where that guy was sitting speaking Hindi, which is an Indian dialect." And it was like she couldn't put it together because I don't know how many Indian people you guys have seen homeless in the United States. I can tell you, I don't think I've ever seen one. We just don't tend to become homeless. Just, I don't know. I don't know what it is or why, but I haven't seen an Indian homeless person before. And so, at least here in the United States. And so my sister is like emotional, and I'm like, what are the odds that we come all the way back here and the person that she goes to give this Indian food to is not there, but instead is this Indian girl. And my sister taps on her and says, "Hey, are you hungry?" And the woman looks up at my sister like she sees a ghost. And she said, "Yes, I want some Indian food." And my sister said, "There's butter chicken here." And the girl starts crying. And she says to my sister that she had asked God that if God was real, to bring her Indian food for dinner that night. And so, why do I tell this story again? Because if you think about it, the likelihood of us having come all the way back there was very slim. And it only happened because that morning we had seen that gentleman there and had interacted with him a couple of times with the donut and the mocha. And, I made this joke with my sister that she had gotten super friendly with him and that they had become friends. And then we couldn't find anybody to give it to in downtown close to the restaurant where we were eating. And so I have this random idea. I believe I have this random idea that is my free will to have, to go back and to give the Indian food to the gentleman who we had seen there in the morning. Well, it turns out it's not him, but it's a girl who happens to be Indian, who happens to make a request to God that if God is real, to bring her Indian food to prove it. And there it happens. And it's just wild to me how that happened, because it gives me an understanding about time. You see, how did it all work out in a way where time wasn't linear there? It was as if the happenings of the evening were in play in the morning, right? Think about that. How did it all know that that was to happen at night? That this girl would be there, that her thought and her wish would be for God to prove itself to her by bringing to her this dish, which was then brought to her because of the happenings of the morning and the conversations that we had. And so you realize that time is all happening all now. Past, present, and future all exists now. Because in that moment, what happened in that morning came full circle for the happenings of the evening. Now, here's another example. My my life has been an incredible symphony of blessings and tragedies, right? I've had some incredible highs and some very deep lows. And I'll rewind you guys back to earlier in my life, where I had this idea, I had this feeling, the sense that what I am experiencing in my life today, this beautiful life that I'm living, these friends, this abundance, the people, the blessings, all of this, that I had a sense that all of this was inevitable, that this was going to happen. And I would speak to it. I would tell my family this, and I would say it to my friends, and all of them thought that there was something a little bit crazy about me, because I would tell them that this is what I will eventually end up living and having. And there was no evidence of that in my earlier days, because in my earlier days, we didn't grow up with anything. My parents were both working class people. We struggled to make ends meet. We had months where we weren't able to make it all work, where we were short on mortgage money, or short on food money, or short on both. And that was a reality for us. That was just how it was. And so there was no seeds of the life that I'm living right now visible in my earlier years to give me that idea that this is the way that I would live. And even though I had that sense, even though I had that vision in my mind's eye that this is how I would live and this is what I would do, I couldn't understand or see how it was all going to transpire, or when it was all going to transpire. And so I look back at what brings me here today, right? It's important to see from 30,000 feet your life, to understand all of the different mechanisms and happenings, and to kind of trace back from 30,000 feet how you get to where you are. And what's really interesting in my story, and I would imagine in many of your stories, that how you get to some of the greatest pinnacles of your existence is a product of some of the most difficult periods of your life. I can remember a time where, as a family, we were taken advantage of, and we were robbed by a gentleman whose name I'll say now, because whatever. Derek Jackson, a music producer out of Los Angeles, the manager of famed music producer Scott Storch, and I were involved in a deal, in an entertainment deal. And this happens after a tragic loss in our real estate holdings in 2007. And the last dollars that we had as a family, my sister, myself, my mom and dad, the last family money that we had was this $300,000 that had come as proceeds of the sale of my childhood home. Okay, the house I grew up in, where my family raised my sister and I, there was $300,000 that we had received as the net proceeds of that we had put towards this entertainment deal that we had a tremendous amount of hope would be the biggest blessings of our lives. And what ends up happening is instead that gentleman ran away with the money. He proceeded to pay his personal bills, rent. I don't know. I think he spent something like $10,000 at Lady Foot Locker on different girlfriends that he had around the country. It was once I got to see where all the money was spent when we finally sued the gentleman and were able to subpoena his bank records. And I got to see where the last dollars of our family money were spent and how they were spent with just recklessness and disregard for the people whom he had robbed. And as I'm watching this all, I remember what I was feeling in that time. And not only myself, but my sister and my mother and my father, what we were feeling at that time is that was the lowest that we had ever been as a family, individually. It was the worst. It was so bad because we went from living comfortably to living in a like roach infested apartment because it was all we could afford. And no matter how clean we were, and no matter how many times we, sprayed the house and did the things, the neighbors were so filthy that roaches would just find their way into our place. But this is how we live. This is where we ended up. And it was terrible because of how sad it was, but also beautiful because we were all together. And I'm in this situation, right, where we've been robbed, where we're living in a situation that is completely desperate and disgusting in reality. And I can tell you now, by looking back at it from 30,000 feet, that had that not happened, that had Derek Jackson not stolen our money, I'm not able to get to this seat that I'm in today. It doesn't happen. Just like that girl who wanted the Indian food for dinner that night. It doesn't happen had we not met the gentleman that morning and given him the coffee and the donut. You see what I mean? And so without that situation, without that thievery, we don't end up making the decisions and taking the path that gets Rahima and I to Phoenix, Arizona, that get us to the place where we found Keegley, that get us to the place where we get a television show, that get Pace and I together to become best friends, that put us into the world where we're starting to teach people how we've created financial freedom for ourselves, which then get me to forming Astro Flipping, which get Pace to creating Sub 2, which get us to Squat Up Summit, which get us to here. And again, like the homeless man who we gave the coffee and the mocha to, had that gentleman not stolen the $300,000 from us, we don't end up, and I'm not sitting in this seat today. It's a reality. That's a true thing. And so then let me ask you this question, and it begs us all to ask the question: did it exist at the time when the seed was planted? It absolutely must have, right? That dinner not exist at the time of the coffee. Did the blessings of our lives today not exist at the time of the thievery? And so then, if you think about it, doesn't it all just collapse on itself? So then, when is yesterday, what is now, and what is tomorrow? And so when you ask yourself the question, when, there's only one answer: now. And even though it doesn't look the way you want it to look right now, even though it may not feel the way you want it to feel right now, you don't know where you are in that continuum and in that linear unfolding of time and space that gets you to the place that you know in your heart of hearts and your deepest self know that you will reside in, that you reside in now. And that's incredible, because every time we ask ourselves when, we have the answer. We know it's all happening. And if I had a chance now to, and knowing all that I know now, if I was to time travel back and I was to see myself sitting in that place with my mom and my sister and my niece and my dad and our 150-pound dog Mash in that 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, if I was to go back and to be able to see myself now, for then, like if I was to go back in myself now and go back and see myself in that time, what would I say to myself while I'm covered in tears, while my heart is breaking that we've lost our family home, that we've been left with nothing, that this piece of crap stole from us? And then does that make that person a piece of crap or not? Or were they just playing their part? Think about it. Did it not have to happen in order for this to take place? And this taking place with thousands of people's lives changed because of the things that we do, does it not make sense that that tragedy was necessary for the triumph of now? And then does Derek Jackson actually play the role of a villain or a supporting character? Crazy, right? And does that not change the relationship between me and my pain? And does it not free me from feeling as if it's unnecessary? So I want us to go on a journey together, a little meditation. If you're up for a meditation with me right now, just put yes in the chat. I want us all to do this together. Okay. So if you're just joining me and you're watching me kind of do this guided work, this guided meditation, you're probably going to be wondering, what the hell is he doing? Well, sorry you're late, but are you really? I don't know. But I just want you to kind of get comfortable in your seat with me here just now, and just, get both of your feet flatly planted on the ground, and just take a deep breath in and hold it at the top, and then let it out. And on the release, just release any tension that you're feeling in your shoulder and in your back and in your body. And then just take another deep breath in and hold it at the top, and then release. And any tension that you have in your body, let it go And then again, one more time, deep breath in, hold it at the top, and then just flex all the muscles in your body, flex them all, flex them all, flex them all, and then exhale, releasing the muscles, releasing the tension, releasing any stress with that exhale. And I want you to now, in your mind, focus on your breath. Feel it coming in and out, your lungs filled with air, the air leaving your body, you leaving your lungs. And while you are breathing in and out, I want you to visualize on the inhale, energy flowing in through your nose. It's a pink energy. You can see it. It's like a pink light. As it enters your body, it enters in through your lungs, and it just permeates your entire system. And as you exhale, you're releasing anything stale, anything old, anything that no longer serves you. On the inhale, you're just feeling that and seeing that pink light energy flowing into your body. It swirls around into your head, into your shoulders and arms and chest, into your hips, into your legs, into your calves, and out through your feet, releasing anything that no longer serves you. I want you to go back to a time in your life where you felt the love of your mother. Maybe it was the day you were born. Maybe you can remember that. Maybe it was a time when mom hugged you after you fell off your bike. Maybe it was the embrace after a heartbreak or a disappointment. Maybe it's your wedding day. Maybe it's after some tragedy. But just go to that feeling of safety, protection. See both you and your mom from the outside and feel that feeling of love, of connectedness. Be in that moment. And just let that feeling of connectedness and love fill your entire being. What is the scene that you're inhabiting with your mother? You guys are so close at the moment that your heartbeats are syncing up. That feeling of unconditional love like nothing else you've ever experienced. And that feeling of love is one that you know is the closest to eternity that you've ever felt. Your mother loved you before you were here. She's loved you every moment you've been here and will love you long after she and you leave. And that sensation, that feeling of a mother's eternal love is just filling your entire being. Just sit in that minute, sit in that moment, and let gratitude fill your heart. Now, as you are embracing your mother in that moment, it's time to leave. And you find yourself in a new scene, a new room, a new place, a new time. To the largest, most painful heartache, heartbreak, disappointment, or sorrow that you have ever felt. What scene is that? Who's with you? Who are the players of that sad scene? What's the texture of the moment? Now, instead of immense sadness, there's a sense of neutrality taking over your being, an equanimity that removes the sadness of that heartbreak. Now, as you sit looking at this sad, tragic, painful moment and all of the players involved, you realize that this moment is necessary. Because without this moment, the life that you know you deserve, the abundance, the relationships, the love, the blessings, none of it happens without this moment. And although this moment is painful, and up until now, it's been a subject of soreness for you, tension, anger, frustration, and disappointment, it's finally changing into something different. And for the first time, you're starting to feel a sense of gratitude, knowing that the pain that you're experiencing now is the ingredients for your greatest triumph, for the life you've always wanted to live. The parties and the players that are with you in this moment, the perpetrators of the pain that you felt, are simply reading a script. Like actors showing up for their part. These are souls who contracted with you to help you evolve and grow. And even though their part was a painful one, there was always love underneath it. And whatever pain and anger that you've had for this or these people, for this moment in this situation, I want you to see that pain, see that frustration, and see that anger as if it was a suitcase that you are holding in your hand. All of the pain, all of that anger, all of that frustration is inside of that suitcase. And it's heavy. And it hurts. And you finally let it go. You unclasp your hands and you move away. Now, that feeling, that lightness, that sense of relief, that weight lifted off your shoulders has completely changed how you're feeling at this moment. And you float to the present moment with your eyes closed in whatever room you're in right now. You realize that it's strange listening to my voice, looking at yourself from outside of yourself while being inside of you. You have a sense of gratitude for giving yourself the sense, the freedom, the space to even have this moment, to take this time to pause, to reflect. And in this moment, you finally move forward into the future, into that place, that triumph, that life that you know you deserve. That home, that relationship, the bank balance, it's all there. You're sitting in the seat you know you've always deserved to sit in. And as you look back, you realize from that moment of love that you felt from your mother to the sadness, the anger, and the frustration you felt in that great trial and tribulation you had to endure, to the present moment, to the next in the future, to your greatest triumph, all of it was necessary. All of it is real, and all of it is now. There's no such thing as past, present, and future. It's all happening now. As you take a deep breath in, hold it at the top, and let it out. You feel that sense, that release, and that knowing that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. One more deep breath in, hold it at the top. Coming back into your body, coming back in to the room. Wiggle your feet, wiggle your fingers. And just be in your seat for a moment. And when it feels right, open your eyes. I hope the next time you're feeling like it's not happening fast enough, you remember this. It's all happening exactly the way it's meant to be. All right. I hope you guys have a beautiful week. I hope that was enjoyable and that it gave you some perspective. Manifestation is constantly happening, and we don't get to decide when we experience the things that we want to experience, and we don't get to skip stages. That it's all happening now, and the seeds of your triumph were planted thousands of years ago. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. If your mothers are alive, give them a call, give them a kiss, and have a beautiful rest of your week. Mwah. See ya.